Right now, as you watch this, something unprecedented is unfolding in global markets. As of December 12th, 2025, silver prices have reportedly surged to around $64 per ounce. These are levels we have not seen in modern trading history. We are talking about what analysts describe as roughly a 113% climb in just 12 months. And the analysis I will share with you throughout the video will truly allow you to view markets from a different perspective. However, let me share my analysis of why this spike is fundamentally different from typical commodity rallies. This is not just market forces. This appears to be strategic positioning. When I studied historical patterns, I found three eerily similar situations. In each case, the dominant economic power faced serious decline, every single time. Now let me tell you about my findings and the situations they led to. Let me outline what I believe China did on October 30th, why this matters to your daily life, and three critical developments you should understand before January 1st. That is just 3 weeks away. I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, and I'm not affiliated with anyone mentioned in this video. This is purely educational analysis based on publicly available information. In late October 2025, according to multiple trade reports, China's Ministry of Commerce announced new export control measures on silver. Sources indicate that silver exports will require government approval starting January 1st. We are talking about export quotas, licensing requirements, and what they are calling national security reviews. My interpretation is this: China now holds significant leverage over global silver distribution. The market response was immediate and dramatic. Reports suggest Shanghai silver inventories dropped approximately 40% within 3 weeks. Physical silver premiums in mainland China have reportedly skyrocketed. Some sources indicate Chinese buyers are paying anywhere from $108 to $128 per ounce for actual physical metal. That is roughly double the global spot price. In my view, this signals they are anticipating major supply constraints. Meanwhile, Western mints are reporting sellouts. London Metal Exchange inventories have reportedly hit multi-year lows. Major institutional players are demanding physical delivery instead of paper contracts. We are talking about orders worth approximately 350 million ounces. That is more than what many analysts estimate as the entire annual global surplus. Why should you care about this situation? Now, let me explain why this matters to you personally, even if you have never invested in precious metals. Your smartphone contains roughly 0.5 grams of silver. Industry estimates for electric vehicles suggest between 25 and 50 grams per vehicle. Solar panels use approximately 20 grams each. Here's the kicker. Artificial intelligence, data centers powering tools like ChatGPT are among the biggest silver consumers in tech history. Each server reportedly uses specialized silver-coated components for heat management and high-speed connectivity. Some industry forecasts suggest the artificial intelligence boom alone could consume around 200 million ounces of silver by 2030. Defense applications are equally critical. Missiles, radar systems, guidance computers. Reports indicate that the United States military consumed approximately 15 million ounces in 2024. The concerning part is here. The United States, according to available data, produces only about 14% of its domestic silver supply. Just 14%. The rest is imported. But China's real power is completely different. Here is what many people do not realize. China does not mine the most silver. They produce roughly 6% of global mine output according to available data. But China dominates the refining process. They process raw silver from other countries. They convert it into high-purity industrial-grade material. Then they distribute it globally, or at least they did until 3 weeks ago. Now, I know what you are thinking. China would not actually restrict silver exports. That would hurt their own economy. This is just negotiation tactics. Let me share why I believe that is a miscalculation. Because when I researched this, I found this exact pattern has played out 3 times throughout history. Similar structure, similar progression, similar outcomes. Based on my analysis, we just entered stage 3. The 4-stage historical pattern comes into play here. Here is the pattern I identified. Consistently 4 stages. Stage 1 is dependency. A dominant nation builds critical infrastructure around a single commodity. Their factories depend on it. Their military requires it. They assume unlimited access. Stage 2 is weaponization. The supplier realizes they are holding strategic leverage. They begin restricting exports gradually. They test responses. They create scarcity while citing administrative delays. Stage 3 is crisis. Prices surge. Industries slow production. The dependent nation scrambles for alternatives, but the timeline is too compressed. Supply chains are already disrupted. Stage 4 is realignment. Industrial dominance erodes, currency weakens, military advantages diminish, a new global order emerges. Let me give you one historical example that mirrors what I see happening now. First historical example, Britain and German steel, we can say. Around 1870, Britain controlled an estimated 60% of global manufacturing. The Royal Navy dominated maritime trade, but they were heavily dependent on German steel imports. For decades, the system worked smoothly. Germany supplied raw materials. Britain manufactured the machines, ships, and weapons. Then around 1890, Germany reportedly started creating delays in shipments. Not officially. That would have been an act of war. Just bureaucratic complications, extended quality inspections. British factories experienced slowdowns. Shipyards missed delivery deadlines. Steel prices reportedly tripled by 1900. Britain attempted to develop domestic steel capacity, but they were already behind schedule. The infrastructure development took years. The costs were enormous. In 1914, World War I began. Germany's steel advantage translated into military capability. They reportedly outproduced Britain in artillery, machine guns, and submarines. Britain survived, but they never fully recovered their industrial dominance. By 1945, the United States had emerged as the new global superpower. The same pattern, different resource. The entire transition took less than 50 years. Second historical example, China's silver lesson. Here is what fascinates me. China learned this lesson through direct experience. Around 1800, China was the world's largest economy. They produced everything Europe desired: silk, porcelain, tea. However, China demanded payment exclusively in silver. By approximately 1830, China had reportedly absorbed roughly 50% of global silver production. This created a severe problem for Britain. Their silver reserves were depleting, their economy was hemorrhaging wealth eastward. Thus, Britain found an alternative solution: opium. They flooded China with opium from India. They reversed the silver flow. They turned China's surplus into a deficit. When China attempted to stop it, Britain invaded. The Opium Wars, China lost. They were forced to open ports, cede Hong Kong, and accept European dominance for over 1 century. But here is my key observation. China never forgot that historical lesson. They are not repeating the same mistakes. 185 years later, they have positioned themselves on the opposite side of the equation. Where are we now? Let me explain that too. Where do I believe we are right now? In stage 3, the crisis stage. Here's my supporting evidence. The United States government reportedly designated silver as a critical mineral in 2025. They recognize the strategic threat. Cumulative global silver deficits are estimated at around 800 million ounces, according to industry analysts. 5 consecutive years of shortages. Production is reportedly unable to keep pace with demand. Here is the structural issue. Approximately 70% of silver comes as a byproduct of other metal mining operations. You do not simply open a dedicated silver mine, you mine copper, lead, and zinc, and silver comes as a secondary output. This means that rapid production increases are structurally difficult. If copper demand drops, silver supply drops, regardless of silver prices. The system has fundamental constraints. The industrial impact also opens up a different door, of course. Reports indicate solar panel manufacturers are experiencing delays. Electric vehicle production is reportedly slowing down. Artificial intelligence chip makers are searching for alternatives, but here is the technical reality. Silver's electrical conductivity is the highest of any element. Its thermal conductivity is unmatched. You cannot effectively substitute it in high-performance applications, not for military systems, not for artificial intelligence infrastructure. The Pentagon understands this. Defense contractors understand this. Silicon Valley understands this. And I believe China understands that they understand. Industry analysts are forecasting potential shortfalls exceeding 200 million ounces in 2025. This is approximately 15% of annual demand, simply unavailable. I also have ideas and thoughts regarding price forecasts. Let me explain. Current price is around $62 per ounce. Deutsche Bank's public forecast suggests approximately $65 by the end of 2026. Bank of America analysts have similar projections, but here is what is not being said publicly. If China maintains these restrictions, if deficits compound, some analysts are privately discussing $75 to $100 per ounce. Not in 10 years, within 18 months. So what happens next? In my analysis, there are only three realistic options. Option one, the United States pays whatever China demands. Prices surge. Industries pass costs to consumers. Your smartphone becomes more expensive. Your electric vehicle costs more. Your electricity bill increases because silver is embedded in modern infrastructure. Option two, the United States sources silver elsewhere. They pressure Mexico, Peru, Canada, Australia. However, these countries are reportedly already at maximum production capacity. China can outbid them with an estimated $3 trillion in foreign reserves. Furthermore, China controls the refining infrastructure. Raw silver ore requires processing. Option three, the United States builds domestic refining capacity. In my view, this is the only sustainable solution, but it takes years, perhaps 10 years. Permits, environmental reviews, construction, testing. By then, China will potentially have locked in industrial advantages. Their artificial intelligence infrastructure may be superior. Their green energy grid more advanced. Their electric vehicle fleet larger. The United States will be playing catch-up with higher input costs. Remember the historical pattern? Britain attempted to build steel capacity after depending on Germany. Too late. The United States is attempting to secure silver after depending on China's refining network. History suggests the timeline is compressed. So, what should you do with this analysis? I will give you three specific recommendations. First, understand the timeline. China's export controls reportedly take full effect on January 1st, which is 3 weeks from now. I expect prices could potentially reach $70 per ounce by March. They will likely go even higher. If you are in industries dependent on silver, electronics, solar, automotive, consider factoring this into your planning now, not later now. Second, recognize the divergence. When physical silver and paper silver are splitting, Chinese buyers are reportedly already paying roughly double the paper price for actual metal, and this gap represents a fundamental disconnect between futures contracts and physical reality. When this gap potentially closes in Western markets, and I believe it will, the price adjustment could be severe and sudden. Third, watch the next 90 days. If China follows through with strict enforcement in January, if inventories continue declining, if more countries start hoarding strategic reserves, this will confirm that we are locked into stage 3. At that point, the window for easy solutions closes. And let us come to the real issue. Here is what I believe you need to understand. This is not just about one commodity. In my analysis, China is testing whether the United States will respond decisively. If Washington does nothing on silver, I expect Peking to move to the next critical mineral. Rare earths, tungsten, antimony, cobalt. This appears to be a systematic campaign to control the supply chain of the 21st century economy. Silver might just be the opening move. China spent 2 centuries watching the West control critical resources, watching Britain dominate steel, watching America dominate oil, watching the dollar dominate trade. Now they are potentially reversing this dynamic, with silver, with rare earths, with everything that powers modern technology. The United States appears to be reacting late, an estimated 800 million ounces missing. 4 historical stages. We are apparently in stage 3. The pattern seems clear. The timeline is established. The only question is this: do you see it developing? In 1914, Britain could not resolve the steel crisis. The timeline was too compressed. Infrastructure development took decades. Germany was already moving ahead. Now, in 2025, the United States is in a similar position. Silver refining takes years. China has already moved ahead. How big is the difference? Britain's steel dependency weakened military capability. America's silver dependency could weaken technology leadership in artificial intelligence, in green energy, in defense systems. History does not repeat itself exactly, but it certainly rhymes. In 1840, China could not maintain its silver surplus. Britain reversed it with the flow of opium. China suffered foreign domination for 50 years. In 2025, China is not repeating the same mistake. They are weaponizing silver. They control their refining. They are affecting the global supply chain. The lesson from 1840: do not lose control over critical resources. The application in 2025: use critical resources as strategic leverage. January 1st is just 3 weeks away. China's export controls begin in full on that date. I expect prices to hit $70 by March. If you are in any silver-dependent industry, plan now. If you are an investor, watch the gap between physical and paper. If you are an analyst, monitor the next 90 days. This is not hype. This is a historical pattern. We have seen it 3 times. 1870, Britain, Germany, steel. 1830, China, Britain, silver. 2025, China, America, silver. And as you can see, the pattern is completing. Stage 1, dependency. America tied its modern technology to silver. Complete. Stage 2, weaponization. China announced export controls. Complete. Stage 3, crisis. Prices are surging, inventories are dropping, industries are slowing down. We are currently in it. Stage 4, realignment. The global economic order is shifting, loading. Britain responded after becoming dependent on Germany for steel. Too late. America is responding after becoming dependent on China for silver. Is history repeating itself? I will continue to convey these analyses to you in the most understandable way. To be informed about future videos, you can subscribe to my channel and hear these ideas before anyone else. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Because January 1st is 3 weeks away, you must not stay away from information and developments, as the market never stops. The timeline is established. The pattern is clear. The only question is, are you ready for this?